Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play. Welcome to the Fallout Lorecast, the podcast that explores the boundaries of our knowledge about the world of Fallout. If you've been listening to this show over the last, 6, almost 7 years now, you probably know that I have a warm spot in my heart, let's just call it that, for the weird and wacky things that happen not only in Fallout, but in other things as well. I really like when things get a little bit strange, when weird stuff happens. And one of the weird things that happens in Fallout that doesn't get enough discussion are the psychics. There are psychic characters throughout the Fallout series. If you're somebody who's only ever played Fallout 4 and 76, then you might just be thinking about Mama Murphy and how she stands out compared to all of the other characters that you meet in Fallout 4. I know that when I loaded it up for the first time, it kind of stood out to me. I was like, okay, who is this old lady, and can she really see things in the future or the past? And she has these weird visions in her dreams. Is this legitimate, or is this just one of those weird things that happens in the game in order to add a little bit of flavor and make you wonder about a character? Well, if you haven't had a chance to go back to play some of the older Fallout games, then you wouldn't know that psychic characters show up pretty regularly. They're not particularly common, but they do show up. This is a feature of the games that goes all the way back to Fallout 1. And there are examples of characters with different types of, I guess what we could call telepathic or foresight or seer type of abilities throughout the series. So I thought I would take this episode to dig into each one of those characters and take a look at what their powers actually are, a little bit about who they are. Many of these characters have come up in other episodes of the podcast, so I'm not going to delve too much into all of the details, as many of these characters could have their own individual episodes, and some of them already do. But let's take a look at what their abilities are, how they got them, if we know, and how they compare to these other psychic-type characters. So grab your Radaway, and let's head out into the wasteland and see what we find out. Heading all the way back to Fallout 1, let's discuss the very first psychic characters that show up in Fallout. And this discussion centers around the Master himself, the main villain of Fallout 1. The mutant individual who becomes part machine and kind of just this, fleshy goo that stretches over his computer screen. You remember the image. It's super weird and gross. Yeah, the Master. Known originally as Richard Moreau, his name changed to Richard Gray later on. He's behind the Unity, or the Master's army, and also the Children of the Cathedral. I'm sure all of this is coming back to you. If not, go back and listen to the episode about the Master. But this guy, absolutely super weird, but also psychic. And not only was he psychic, but he sought to create other psychics. And they're not called psychics, they're called psychers. Think of him as kind of an evil Professor X with a lot of other weird mutations and cybernetic things going on. He had the ability to use telepathy, mind control, and telekinesis. And he sought to create others with psychic abilities and strange mutations as well. Pyrokinesis, electrokinesis, telekinesis, photokinesis. Now that last one may not be as familiar to you. So photokinesis basically means control of light with your mind, the ability to move or control light. You see, these 4 individuals, Wiggum, Gideon, Lucy, and Moore, were experimented on by the Master in order to make them able to do these kinds of things. Again, think of another, this is kind of X-Men adjacent, right? This mutants being mutated in order to do these things, but these people are being controlled by the Master. They are kept in cells behind force fields and are equipped with psychic nullifiers. These keep their abilities from being able to be used to their full potential. The Master is dominating each one of these and wanting to use them only when they are useful to him. Now, these experiments weren't as successful as the master wanted them to be, and then they became dangerous, and so of course he has to lock them away. So let's go through each of the characters and how they may be different or actually similar to certain other characters. We have Wiggum, who has electrokinetic abilities, meaning that he can control electricity with his mind. And even with the psychic nullifier on, you can still see little shocks of electricity on his body. Then there's Gideon and Lucy, and not Lucy from the TV show. This is a different Lucy, but Gideon and Lucy, who both have telekinetic primarily as their main ability, but also have minor photokinetic abilities as well, and you kind of see their heads glow. Then there's Dominic. Dominic is the pyrokinetic of the group, the one who can control fire. And you can tell this because you can see the flares coming out of his eyes. Now, all of this is done in the old Fallout 1 game graphics engine, and of course those characters are limited. There's only so many polygons and, well, pixels. But you can still see these things on the screen. And I would imagine if you were to remake a Fallout 1 in, say, a modern engine, that these characters would be much more interesting to look at. So this concept of experimenting on others in order to awaken or create a more powerful being is all across Fallout. Of course, there's FEV, there are the experimentations that the government was doing, the things the Enclave works on, even some of the vaults mess with people in order to see if they can't be changed in ways that would be more useful. In this case, these individuals are given psychic abilities, but notice one of the differences between all four of these and the Master is that none of them are telepathic. None of them can read thoughts, look into other people's minds, or control those minds. That is an ability that the Master keeps for himself. Now, was this intentional? Did he come up with a way to try to give them these powers, but yet keep other powers away from them? Or were these things that just awakened in them as they were experimented on? Kind of like radiation in FEV. Sometimes when something is administered that in an experiment, or takes too much radiation in the wasteland and FEV is floating around in the air or whatever, and they mutate, you get some sort of weird random, or at least it appears to be random, change in the character. But like I discussed in previous episodes, oftentimes the thing that mutates and the way that the thing mutates it kind of makes sense for the being that it was, but yet humans tend to be different. Sometimes humans mutate in certain ways, and sometimes they mutate in other ways. For example, look at the differences between a super mutant and a chimera, or a snallygaster. Now, all of those things are distinctly different. All of them have distinctly different origins, or at least some of the details in their origins are different, but yet some of them have similarities, things like FEV or radiation. So you can't always tell exactly how something's going to go once you start messing with its genetics and trying to mutate it. For these individuals, they gained these really cool powers, were then deemed too dangerous by the Master and locked up. Now, in Fallout 1, there are some quest lines that coincide with these individuals, and you can actually get to talk to them, so there's more you can do with them. But that's not part of our story today. And the thing I find most interesting about this is the fact that they don't have telepathy, and they don't have the ability to see into the future. For those, we'll need to move forward in the series. The first Psyker with clairvoyancy and telepathic abilities doesn't show up until Fallout 2. In 2241, in the village of Arroyo, in Fallout 2, there is a shaman who goes by the name Hakunin. He's a very odd-looking character. When you first see him in the game, you probably think, what the heck is going on? He's got this weird, no, it's not exactly a helmet, it's like a headdress more than a helmet or a hat or a mask, but yet it covers parts of his face. It has two horns that come down, and he even has what appears to be tattoos of teeth over his lips and darkened coloring under his eyes, whether that's makeup or ash or a tattoo, I don't really know. He looks like a tribal shaman from a time well before the modern age, but yet lives in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. The in-game description says, "Before you stands Hakunin, the village shaman. He appraises you with his crazy eyes from somewhere in the world only he inhabits." This is an apt description because Arroyo is not the only place that you actually get to meet this character. He shows up in your dreams multiple times. There are 4 specific dream sequences that occur, and you have to remember, in Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, there is a ticking clock. Time goes by. Traveling between locations takes time, and other things are scheduled to happen on certain event dates. So the very first time that you get a vision in your dreams while you are dreaming of Hakunin issuing you some sort of warning, and these things are kind of vague and mysterious. The Enclave attack, a dying village, things like that. The very first one happens on the 23rd of October, 2241. Exactly 164 years after the bombs dropped. That's probably not a coincidence. The next one happens on the 21st of January in the next year, because the game continues on from 2241 to 2242, then on the 21st of April, and then finally on the 20th of July. It's also interesting to me that the numbers of the months descend: 23, 21, 21, 20. It's almost as if the one in January could have been the 22nd, but yet for some reason wasn't chosen on that date, and you would have had singular descending numbers.
Chosen, the spirits of our ancestors guide me to a world of dreams that I may touch thoughts. Our village suffers without the holy Gek. Your hands hold our lives as a father holds his children.
So it's implied here that this character is telepathic, is able to project visions of himself into your dreams. And it's a big part of the game. This is a piece of the game that doesn't get discussed very much, but it leads you in specific directions and gives you information that kind of implies what's happening and where you need to move forward. Here are some examples of his dialogue.
Greetings, Chosen. Why does the earth before me warm to the touch of your passing? The earth sings with the news of a champion upon the land. Perhaps before you go, you would bestow a kindness? You may bear the mantle of the Chosen, but your dark soul cries from within.
And unfortunately for Hakunin, his story doesn't end well. If you return to Arroyo later on in the game, after the last dream sequence, things change. Arroyo becomes inaccessible. Hakunin is seen with one more sequence, one of those talking head sequences that you see in those old Fallout games. He's on the ground. He's laying there. His tribal gear, the headdress thing I described earlier, he's got these like little horns on his back, and he has this weird little, sackcloth looking shirt thing that he's wearing. And when you see him in the second image, and there are only so many talking head images in the game. This is one of the few characters that actually has 2 different talking head images. In the second one, his gear is smashed. In fact, you can't even see his shirt or the horns on the back of his outfit. It's gone. He's laying there, bloodied, on the ground, talking to you. And he can barely get the words out.
Too many seasons and too many wounds, Chosen. Instead, you must listen. Thank the ancestors. Now my soul may join the eternal song. Safe journey, Chosen.
He tells you to go south in the direction of Navarro. One last instruction. And notice this last instruction doesn't come through his mind. It comes directly out of his mouth.
Did you never listen when I taught you the yearly dance of the wind spirits? South, of course.
As if he no longer has the ability, or the strength at least, to project himself into your mind. Now notice some differences here between this character and the Psychers we talked about. He doesn't appear to be mutated. In fact, he says that it's his ancestors and spirits that give him the ability to project his thoughts into your mind. This is something more mystical than it is sci-fi. It doesn't have to do with mutations and experimentation. It has to do with the ancestor spirits and mystical, magical kinds of abilities. And yet, it is incorporated in a Fallout game, as sometimes these things are. And I find that to be so interesting and so cool. The next psychic character on our list comes from a game that doesn't get talked about very often, but technically is a Fallout game, and the canonicity is often debated, but is worth at least mentioning briefly. Let's take a look at Fallout Tactics. In 2197, there are creatures called Beast Lords who live at least in the Midwest, because this is the location that Fallout Tactics takes place. Specifically a place called the Belt, which could be a reference to the Bible Belt. And these Beast Lords are part of the raiders that you have to fight. And remember, this is a tactics game, so you come across many different kinds of creatures, different kinds of enemies, and you have to play out the battles, choosing what you're going to do, and then they respond. These characters speak with their minds telepathically to animals. Now, this includes Deathclaws. So when you come across these characters in the game, you might have to deal with other characters that are much worse to deal with than just some raider humans. They use these animals that they control to attack settlements and to generally be, some of the things that you have to do in some of the middle missions of the game. Other than that, we're not given a holotape or a conversation or a cutscene, nothing to explain how they got their powers, where they came from, and why specifically they're able to communicate with animals as opposed to other people. Now, this probably came from at least a meta perspective as a way to design characters that kind of play into the plot of the game and also give you something kind of interesting and creative to have to deal with. Now, why couldn't they just have treated these characters as animal trainers or the kinds of people who were brave enough and at least potentially had the ability to domesticate Deathclaws or a certain type of Deathclaws? I can think of a number of different ways that you could have incorporated the same mechanics, but using something other than telepathy, and specifically telepathy that communicates with animals, which feels like a very specific kind of telepathy, but that's what we got. No explanation for how these people got these powers, where they came from. Is it based on some sort of mutation or experimentation, or is it based on the spirits of their ancestors communicating with the animals or something like that? We don't really know, but that feels about on brand for Fallout Tactics. Now, interestingly, as we move forward in the series to Fallout 3, we come across another character that can communicate with a very specific type of animal using telepathy. Again, with no real explanation for how this happens. Let's move on to Fallout 3.
Communists detected on American soil. Lethal force engaged.
It's time for that spring reset. I'm taking a look at everything in my closet and figuring out that, oh no, this absolutely needs to go. And it's about time I replace things so that my clothes aren't older than my 15-year-old. Now you might think that they lasted that long because they were well made, but no, they're in terrible condition. Unlike the new jeans I just got from Quince. Jeans have always been my personal go-to because you can kind of wear them for lots of different things, but maybe they're not your thing. Maybe you're looking for, 100% European linen with insanely soft flow knit activewear fabric. It's definitely getting warmer, and their flow knit activewear is moisture wicking, anti-odor, and soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it every day. So pick out what you want. You can't go wrong because they have prices 50 to 60% less than similar brands. And like I said before, they are high quality. I continue to wear their clothes all the time, and I know that these new jeans are going to last me a lot better than the other things in my wardrobe. And on top of it, they look great. They're so comfortable, and I spent just as much on the jeans that I am now cleaning out of my wardrobe. So if you're looking for something better, just all around better, go check out Quince. So go do it right now. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/falloutlore.
Bow, peasant. Bow before the Ant Queen.
Two of my favorite characters from Fallout 3 are the Mechanist, who we're not talking about because the Mechanist does not have telepathic powers, and the Ant-Agonizer. I love the name Ant-Agonizer. I love the costume, the big old eyes, the antennas, the spiky little shoulders, the drawing of an ant on the chest, which looks a lot like Spider-Man, but it's an ant, and the idea that this character can communicate telepathically with ants. When you come across them in Fallout 3, of course, they're having kind of a fight across the street from each other. They're yelling at each other and generally causing a commotion that you have to deal with. Now, this character has a backstory, and you learn more about her. Her name is Tanya. She was the daughter of caravan drivers who were attacked by giant mutated ants. Now, this attack did two things. It both left her as an orphan, but it also inspired the persona of the Ant Agonizer. Now, this wasn't the only inspiration, because Hubris Comics already had a villain in their Grognak comics called the Ant Agonizer. So a combination of having read those comics and this traumatic experience with ants led to Tanya donning the appearance, the costume, the guise, and the title of the Ant Agonizer. She justifies all of this as having been something that was good, that the ants cleansed her of her filthy human family. And that's a quote from the game. She calls them her filthy human family. And she is now this powerful, I guess, heroic character in her own mind who's going to cleanse the wasteland with the power of her ants. But that leads to the question, how is she controlling the ants? On one side, she could be actually telepathically communicating with the ants. On another, maybe she just became friends with them. Maybe when they killed her family and left her alive, they liked her enough to keep her around for some reason. Maybe because she was a child. I don't know. I mean, these are ants. It's not like they have complex thought processes as far as we can tell. But again, they're mutated and they're giant. So maybe when their brains got bigger, they started thinking more cleverly about how to handle things. Maybe they gained the ability to actually communicate with her. Is it coming from her side? Is it coming from the ant's side? We don't really know. Much of this is left to the imagination. So I'm including her here as a telepathic kind of character, somebody who has psychic abilities. But the truth of the matter is that we don't really know. It's something that could be possible, but it also could just be possible that the ants are able to understand what she says, or maybe her hand signals, or maybe the ants are controlling her. So it leaves things up in the air. And although we can't confirm her as definitely being psychic, there is another who might be.
You gaze upon one of America's greatest minds, preserved through the miracles of science!
Fallout 3's Point Lookout DLC brings us Professor Calvert. He's also known as the Transcendent Master by Jackson's Tribals. And this is a brain. He is a brain in a vat who is psychic. That's how he's able to communicate through the vat to individuals who he wants to communicate with. So long story short, he existed before the Great War and learned about a project being developed at St. Aubin Medical Facility. Now, this is the place that's located beneath the lighthouse near the Calvert family mansion. Now, his brother was Senator Calvert, and the project that the medical facility was working on was very similar to what General Atomics was doing with RoboBrains. They were taking brains out, they were using this biomed gel to not only make sure that when they remove the brains from individuals, that those individuals would then also gain psychic abilities. He was intrigued by this and started working on this research, and then things were sabotaged. Desmond, who was another individual who was working on this, sabotages this. He ends up as a RoboBrain in a vat, and then years later, when you come across him in Fallout 3, he is acting like the Master with his own villainous plot to take over Maryland, which is hilarious. We're going to conquer Maryland. Yeah, so another psychic character. This one, we know where the psychic abilities come from, and it's through this specific process that he went through with this medical facility. Now, he didn't intend to become a brain in a vat, at least yet, but then was relegated to that, and then you have to deal with him in the Point Lookout DLC. So there you go. Fallout 3 has an actual psychic, somebody who gained that power through experimentation and science, not through mysticism and ghosts or anything like that. But here, we've got more to talk about. Let's move on to New Vegas.
Oh, I don't know anything, mister. I just think it. And then I don't.
During New Vegas, you can come across a character named Clay, or the forecaster. Clay is a young boy. And with this psychic character, we get a return of the psychic nullifier, the same devices that were used in Fallout 1. Now, Clay has the ability to forecast things into the future, but to also see things into the past, much like Mama Murphy. But if Clay uses this ability too much, it hurts. There are limitations to this, and that's why Clay wears the psychic nullifier. Without it, he has migraines, but with it, it clears his mind too much, and he can go blank. The forecaster is a tragic character. The only reason we know his name is Clay is because of the script notes for the dialogue. In the game, he's referred to as the forecaster. We don't know a lot about this character's life, or very much at all, where they came from, who their parents were, why they have psychic abilities, and how they got a nullifier. But we do know that this character, from meta perspective, was designed by Joshua Sawyer and scripted by John Gonzalez. They were inspired by the cathedral, the concept of the psychers. So this is a direct callback to Fallout 1, but it's also dark. This character is alone and is lonely. He surrounds himself with items and things that he cares about and is willing to help out the player, but only does so much and only shows up a little bit in the game. We don't get the backstory, we don't get anything else, and we don't get a description about why they are the way they are. Just a lonely child with a blessing that is equally a curse. Now, the last two characters that we are going to cover come from Fallout 4, and yes, there are two of them. I mentioned Mama Murphy previously, and Mama Murphy is a big part of Fallout 4. I'm not going to take the rest of this episode or double the length of the episode to describe Mama Murphy to you. Many of you have played Fallout 4 and you know who she is, and she deserves her own episode. We haven't done an episode on her yet specifically, but that could be in the future. There is another character that I have done a specific episode on, Lorenzo Cabot. He was given psychic abilities from an alien artifact that he wears on his head. And not only was he given psychic abilities, but he's given an extended life, he's given information, and it seems like the aliens themselves are beaming in information into his head. Information about the real situations that happened in the historical past, but also knowledge that he would not have otherwise. He's one of the most mysterious characters in all of Fallout 4, and definitely worth a closer look. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go back and listen to the Lorenzo Cabot episode. Some really, really cool stuff there. So there you go. Psychic abilities across Fallout. The Master and the Psychers from Fallout 1, Hakunin and his tragic end in Fallout 2, the Beast Lords in Fallout Tactics, maybe the Antagonizer, we don't really know, but definitely Professor Culvert in Fallout 3, the Forecaster in New Vegas, Mama Murphy and Lorenzo Cabot in Fallout 4. Are we going to get a psychic character in 76 at some point? I don't know. Or maybe in the TV show? Will we have one show up in Fallout Season 2? Maybe. What if the Forecaster shows up? That could happen. Unfortunately, I'm not psychic, and I don't have foresight. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you to all of our patrons who help bring this to you every week, and welcome to our newest patrons, patreon.com/Fallout Lorecast for ad-free episodes and for all sorts of fun stuff. Join us on the patron chats, and heck, you can get all sorts of cool t-shirts and stickers, all sorts of things. Go check it out. But welcome to Brachio, Dreamer, Ashton. I don't remember if I called you guys out last week, so I'll just say it again just in case. Nolan S., Tony B., and Ben H. Welcome to the Patreon. And I have to shout out Germinator, our sentry bot, gets a shout out every week. Thank you so much for your continued support to all of you. And if you'd like to help out in other ways, please tell your friends or leave a review or comment wherever you are listening to this. And if you would like to get read out on a future episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts in the US, and I'll be able to see it and read it on a future episode. Also, I have a really cool project in the works that I can't reveal yet, but I am in the process of making the first few episodes of it. It's going to be a brand new show, and it's going to cover things that I think all of you will find super interesting and a lot of fun. It's something that is taking more work than I've ever put into a project before. So I hope you all enjoy it. More information about that in future episodes, and probably a launch within the next few weeks. So I'll keep you plugged in and informed about that. Lots of cool stuff going on at robotsradio.net, and check out robotsradio.net. Check out all the different shows. Lots of new shows joining the network every week, and lots of new creators joining the Rocket Club and launching their own shows. All sorts of cool stuff. Go check that out. Next week, I have a really cool episode coming. If I can get everything scheduled, I have a guest I'm working on, and I think that's going to be really cool, and you guys will enjoy that as well. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And if you come across a psychic being in the wasteland, I don't know, ask them about your future or how they communicate with ants and see what kind of answer you get. Answer? Nice. Stay safe in the wasteland. I'll see you next time. To plug into everything else we're doing, check out robotsradio.net. Reach out to me on Twitter at robots_radio. Check out the Robots Radio Rocket Club, where you can join me and a bunch of our other creators creating your podcast, starting a new podcast, or helping your current podcast grow. There's more information about that on robotsradio.net as well. And you can always talk with us and the entire community, over 2,000 people on the Robots Radio Discord. Come join us. We'd love to chat with you. See you guys next time.